who I guess outside of Texas and Ohio State do you think have the shot? How many are there? Let's walk me through. Tell me the schools that you think really have the shot to go into the playoffs, go on a run, and win it all. Because it's now a different world, right? Like
it is.
Even with Texas and Ohio State, we were talking about the other day, if this was 5-10 years ago, the loser could be out, period. End of story. They will not make the final podium. Different story now, though. So who do you have for me, Greg?
As we learned last year, Notre Dame went all the way to the championship game and lost to Northern Illinois. So what you do early is not necessarily an indicator of future results.
Yep.
This, though, Rich, and this is not me being a water carrier for the sport, because I want people to be invested. I actually genuinely believe, I think there are 15 teams that could legitimately win the national championship this year.
15 teams.
15.
Okay.
And what's even more remarkable, Rich, is that if you want to just talk about making the playoff, I have as many as 37 teams that could make the playoff this year. And that includes 9 in the Big 12 because the Big 12 will send their champion. I think there's 9 teams in the Big 12 that could win that conference overall. The SEC has 12 teams that could make the playoff this year. Because if you look at last year, no one had Indiana going 11-1 and making the playoff.
Right.
They were 3-9 the year before. No one had Arizona State at 4-8 the year before, making the playoff and giving Texas all they want. They lost in double overtime in the quarterfinal to the Longhorns. Nobody really saw those teams doing those things. So I think the opportunity is there. And with the transfer portal and new rosters looking the way they look, you could totally be different from what you were the year before. So if we're going to go through it, teams that I think could win it, the obvious and usual suspects. You mentioned Ohio State, you mentioned Texas. Those go without saying. I would add Penn State to that mix this year. They bring everybody back. I would add Clemson to that mix this year. They are fantastic. Like Penn State, bring just about everybody back. Notre Dame, they got to figure out quarterback. I think they're going to be fine there. They just need a manager at that position. Could be great on defense and good along the offensive line. Great run game. They're in the mix. Georgia's in the mix, as always. Bama's in the mix, as always. LSU has arguably the best quarterback returning in college football. They're in the mix, assuming their offensive line plays really well. I would put Oregon in the mix. They're very, very young, but they're outrageously talented. So if they mature quickly, they could be one of the players at the very end. Carson Beck's at Miami. He replaces Cam Ward, but Carson Beck 2 years ago was supposed to be the first overall pick last year. Didn't materialize. He now gets a fresh start at Miami, and they have everything else you could possibly want along both lines of scrimmage. I think South Carolina has Lenore Sellers, who has one of the highest ceilings at quarterback in the entire country. I also think Oklahoma is a team that not enough people are talking about right now, but their quarterback, John Mateer, he was at Washington State. That's where Cam Ward was a couple years ago. His numbers were far superior to Cam Ward at Washington State. Now, Cam Ward went on to become the 4th place Heisman Trophy vote getter last year, went on to become the first overall pick. Now John Mateer's at Oklahoma. They're going to be good on defense, but if they can just figure out quarterback, they were 91st last year in total QBR. John Mateer was top 25. That's a 55 spot improvement. So, or a significant improvement, 75 spot improvement, 25, 60, whatever the numbers are. Alabama guy here. Don't know the math, doesn't matter.
Nice.
But if they improve drastically at that spot, that could be a contender as well as kind of one of those dark horse teams. There's a few others that I didn't list, but man, there are a lot of teams that could legitimately bring it home this year.
There's one team I didn't hear you mention. Didn't hear you mention Michigan.
I know you wanted me to say Michigan. There has been 2 true freshman quarterbacks that have won the national championship. One was Trevor Lawrence in 2018. If you look at his supporting cast, vastly different than that of what Bryce Underwood's going to be taking the field with, and Jamel Holloway in 1985. So if you have a true freshman quarterback, with all due respect, I'm going to play the odds in this scenario, and I just have a hard time thinking that they're going to be good enough to win the Natty this year. So I hate saying that on your program.
No, it's okay, Greg. These are facts. These are facts. You told me facts. You told me numbers, even though you just basically said, you have trouble with numbers. I understand. I understand all of that. So Bryce Underwood's level of expectation for him is what? Like giving Michigan a chance at the playoffs and not winning in the playoffs, making the playoffs? Are they? What do you got for me on that front?
They can make the playoffs for sure. If you really look at them last year, think about this. Okay, yards per drop back, which is the number one indicator right now because of the quarterback spot. Yards per drop back, rush yards are affected by sacks, all those things. Yards per drop back last year, Michigan was 130th out of 135 teams. That is unthinkable.
Yeah, well,
when you really look at things. So even though
it was difficult to watch, I can't even believe those numbers, to be honest with you.
The other teams behind them were some schools you might not even know existed or played high-level football.
I get it, Greg. You made your point
I'm
about last year.
Not trying to twist the knife, but it's going to be vastly improved.
Sure.
And I still think they'll be good on defense. They should be good running the football. I don't know about his weapons. That is a legit concern. But he's going to be a significant upgrade over what they had last year. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Michigan is dangerous, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they get to an 8-4, 9-3, which would have you right on the edge of playoff consideration.
Right.
I just have a hard time thinking they could win 4 games in the postseason with a young quarterback that's still kind of trying to figure things out.
I know. He does quarterback a team that did, however, win a 4th consecutive game against the Buckeyes. Just saying, not, Julian saying, just saying. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.